All right, TJ. So we've talked a lot about Vivek Ramaswamy on this
Hmm.
show, mostly because we always get a lot of views when we do, but also because he's led a very interesting campaign. Like agree with him or not, and we mostly disagree with him. He has presented a ulterior option to what the standard Republican politician has been for a long time, or the standard Democrat politician is. And I'd like to talk about the shape of his campaign, whether or not it was successful, because it does seem to be on its last legs. So he
Hmm.
won't be on the Illinois primary ballot. He's looking to finish fourth in Iowa. Like it's not looking good for him. He has staffers who are looking for jobs in other campaigns. Of course, his campaign is saying, "Oh, we're not on the Illinois
Right.
ballot for strategic reasons," because that makes sense.
Hmm.
But it is looking like the last days of this campaign. So my question for you here, TJ, and we'll start off with this. Let's assume that this campaign is basically dead in the water. Was it a success? What if you're Vivek Ramaswamy, are you looking back right now and going, I did what I set out to do? Or are you kind of upset that the ride is over?
If I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, I am looking at this as a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth to win the World Series. Like there is no possible objective way to look at this campaign and call it a failure. Like there isn't. I mean, nobody had heard of Vivek Ramaswamy a year and a half ago. Nobody. And what he's like 38, 39, like a guy coming out of fucking nowhere and hopping in the Republican primary. And now he's pretty much a household name. I mean, maybe not quite up to house, but he's pretty damn close as far as most politicians are concerned.
Mhm.
He's up there with no political experience whatsoever, debating like governors and senators and like people talking about him being president. There's no possible way to look at this as a failure. And also, he came at it, like you said, he came at it at an interesting angle to the people. And we've mentioned this before, how he's the most Trump-like of all the candidates. Like he understood what made Trump the success that he was for the Republican Party, and just him up there, just pissing off. This is like the entire conservative movement. We've mentioned this before, how there's very few like guiding principles or north star to what they want. Like the majority of what guides Republican actions is pissing people off. Like that's what they live for. They wait. Like how many times you go out, you see people like cry more, fuck your feelings, and it's like
Mhm.
it's all about just making people mad, and that's exactly what he did. He had uh, uh, ambassadors to the UN, like Nikki Haley, just losing her shit on him, on stage and everything. It's like, yeah, that's what they want. They live for that shit. Now, he did have some disadvantages that will be difficult to get over as a Republican. Is that he's not a white guy, he's not a Christian. That's gonna, but and the fact that he still overcame those odds and was successful in the Republican Party is a testament to how well he did. And I don't think for a second that he went into this with any delusion that he was going to be the Republican nominee. Like he knew that. He knew that wasn't going to happen. Like there's an off chance that Trump could have been in prison or something like that, but he knew that was a pretty slim chance. Like he got into this nomination for the same reason a lot of people get into it, which is to like increase your name recognition. To
Mhm.
like why Trump got in actually, like Trump did actually become president. He came in to increase his name recognition, and he did. So yeah, I think it's an absolute success that Ramaswamy went this far, no question.
It's funny you bring up Trump there because I think that he absolutely nailed the correct relationship to Trump. Like of all of the things in this campaign, he was interesting. As you said, he created conflict. He stirred up controversy just like Trump did, and he understood that he couldn't win, and so he played Trump very nicely because he wasn't afraid to go after Trump, but he always did it in ways that wouldn't personally piss Trump off.
Mm-hmm.
And you even see Trump, he posted over the holidays on his Truth Social account that he said, quote, he would, speaking of Vivek, he said, he will, I'm sure, endorse me, but Vivek is a good man and he's not done yet. Like Trump plans on having Vivek's endorsement because Vivek has been loyal to him, but
Mhm.
also like respects him for coming after him a little bit. And that's he's positioned himself exactly to maybe get a cabinet position, maybe get some other thing. I think he's very similar to Andrew Yang. Like I think he's a very, if you look at the trajectory of his campaign, he's coming in from outside of politics. He's presenting different ideas than the party standard would typically be talking about. And he knows he has no shot of winning and is just kind of setting up political moves down the future. I love it. Like I think that that style of politics is a good thing. And as much as I
Mhm.
don't agree with his policy positions, I don't agree with pretty much any Republican nominee on their policy positions. And I think that he has plenty of unsavory, things that he has put out there, or just blatantly stupid things that he's put out there. But at the end of the day, that I don't I think he knows what he's doing. Like
Yeah.
he's saying dumb things a lot, but it's to get the headline. And I do think that there's a lot that maybe a progressive politician could learn. Like, do you think that if someone wanted to model themselves after Vivek Ramaswamy on the left, obviously you'd have to make some changes, but what do you think that would look
Just a
like?
few. Just a few.
Yeah, but policy changes, obviously. But like if you were to just like take Vivek Ramaswamy and mirror him to the other side of the aisle, what would that campaign look like?
It would. I don't know if you could replicate Vivek. Maybe I'm thinking of two different things here because
Mhm.
Vivek, his main thing was, like I said, upsetting people, like saying
Mhm.
shit that pissed people off and feeding red meat. Like, there's not a. If you listen to his like policies, they were insane even for Republicans. Like
Yeah.
he would say shit like, "Yeah, if I become president, I am going to fire everyone in the federal government who has a social security number ending in an odd number." Like
Uh-huh.
what? It's just like it's just weird
Yeah,
shit
the
like that.
dumbest thing
Which
ever.
which is the real, it's so funny that it was so oddly specific because you're just guaranteeing everyone with an odd number social security number is not going to vote for you. Like, why would you do that? And
Google searches for how to look up my social security number
exactly.
skyrocket
Yeah,
after that.
it was insane. But I think that I think that what Vivek learned from Trump that astoundingly other politicians didn't, Republican or Democrat, is that people really appreciate human beings who sound like human beings, like who sound like people you would actually meet and talk to. Because, like, say what you want about Donald Trump, he's a scourge on humanity, awful human being, but when he talks, I believe that's how he talks in his everyday life. Like, I don't believe he changes a thing when he gets on stage. Like, I so bring back to the most important thing. I'm gonna bring it back to me right here. Is that whenever I give public speeches or presentations or whatever, I do my best to sound as conversational as possible. Like when I'm here on the show, when I make videos, when I give speeches. And, it is a performance to an extent. It definitely is. But this is like 95% of how I talk in everyday life. I don't change a thing. But it bothers me when people get on stage and you have this persona that you've seen 1,000 times. And that's what most politicians do. Like, they stand up in this unnaturally straight angle, they
Mhm.
point with their thumbs, they use these cliches, they turn like this, and it's just like it is the most off-putting thing imaginable. And politics was like that for decades. And then Trump came along and yeah, he's oafish and he's stupid and he's absurd, whatever, but he talks like a regular person. And that is endearing to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And listen, you don't have to be a moron like Trump to do that. Bernie Sanders is a good example of someone who doesn't talk, act, move like a regular politician. Like, you can tell everything he says hasn't gone through, 9 different focus groups to
Mhm.
become as, inoffensive and, bland as possible. And people like that. And Ramaswamy realized that. He says, okay, listen, I'm this obnoxious, arrogant prick. I'm gonna be on stage and be that person. Like, all right, he's an obnoxious, arrogant prick, but he's being authentic to himself. Like, that's who he is. And I wish more politicians, and it's astounding that other politicians haven't figured this out. Like, it really is weird to me. Like, you see Ron DeSantis up there, acting like a Disney, animatronic pretending to be Trump, and it's creepy. It's like uncanny valley shit. So that's what I think people could learn from Ramaswamy is, just be the person you are and not the person that you're crafted to be by your handlers. And it's astounding that this hasn't caught on, because it's
Mhm.
obviously what works.
Yeah. No, first of all, TJ, I just have to say, I think the thing that you have complained about most on this show, of all of the things,
All right.
is politicians pointing with their
I hate the
thumbs.
thumb point, man. I hate it so fucking much.
We
Since I
talk
was
about
like,
genocide. We talk about
I
slavery. No, TJ's
listen,
main issue, the thumb point.
listen. So I've been bitching about this for going on 30 years now. So I remember like being a kid, and I would watch Bill Clinton. He's the like Bill Clinton's like the first politician that I fought, and I remember him. It was probably like right before or during the Monica Lewinsky. And I was like 13 years
Mhm.
old, and I would see Bill Clinton on stage, and he'd be talking. And he's like, "I feel your pain," and I remember I was like, "Why is he pointing like that?" I couldn't get my mind away from it. It's like, what? And he did it every time. And then I started noticing every politician did that. And I was like, I have, once again, I'm like in eighth grade. That's like, I have never in my fucking life seen anyone point like this. Like it never happens, but every politician does it. And then like I don't remember who told me, but if it was before I graduated high school, because like I had to get to the bottom of this. Like, I could not rest until I found out why they did it. And they said, oh yeah, they do it because they don't want a still image in a newspaper of them doing this because that looks aggressive and it turns people off. And I thought that's a stupid reason. That is because you know what? This is bizarre. It makes you look like someone pretending to be a human. So and there's ways around it too. Point with your whole hand, just like
Mhm.
it just I don't know. You're right. It does bother me a lot, and I'm glad I'm seeing it less and less. It still happens, but God, hate it.
It does make sense, and it does speak to exactly the point that you're making of like these old, tired politician tropes. People are sick of them.
Yeah.
People are sick of the way like it has been. I feel like when I was born in the 90s, it these seeds were starting, but we didn't really have the internet. We didn't really like most of our media was still coming through, pre-established channels. Like it wasn't people weren't as critical of the specific people or what the government did or whatever as they are now. And now we've just had 20 years of people just hating everything about this. So when you have anyone that comes along as a breath of fresh air, it really does well for their campaign. Look
Yep.
at Vivek, look at Trump. But we haven't, as I said, Andrew Yang is the closest thing in my mind to that. And you mentioned Bernie, and I think that is a good example of what I'm talking about here, is where you're right. Bernie definitely doesn't come across like everything's being put through a PR machine, right? He
Mhm.
definitely there's times when he comes across like that, and there's times where he genuinely feels like this is his thoughts and words, coming out of his mouth. But I think the problem with Bernie is he's too old. Like he
He's
he
very old.
doesn't
Yeah.
like as much as he can't get too angry because he just will come across as old man yelling at clouds. He as much as I love Bernie and he's done great things, he does not have the youthful energy
Yeah.
required to be a little shit and get under people's skin on that stage,
Mhm.
like Vivek does. But I do think that someone could come along on the left. And you don't need like purposely wild attention grabbing positions
No,
like
no.
let's fire everyone with an odd number social security number. We have positions that will catch fire, like open borders, like UBI, like I don't know, even like
Universal health care.
universal. Like there's plenty of positions that can grab headlines on the left that we have the data support are actually good, that we could slot into that spot. And if someone came on the debate stage and just held, I don't know, Gavin Newsom's feet to the fire about the hypocritical shit he's done in his years as a politician, like the same way that Vivek did with Nikki Haley, I think that would really help. Like I think that would help end a lot of the rigidity for the DNC. And also, I think it would be very beneficial to their campaign because there's so many young people. And we're not even talking, we're talking like millennials and Gen Z at this point, who are just, as a demographic, completely disillusioned with the DNC, but vote for them anyway because the other choice
What's it gonna
sucks
do?
more.
Yeah.
But if you had someone who really came and energized that part of the base, there is a lot there that isn't being tapped into, which Donald Trump found on the right side, by the way. Like he found the people who were disillusioned by the GOP and spoke to them. there's plenty of those people on the left who don't really have like Bernie is the only one, and
Yeah.
he's not going to be around much longer, and really doesn't, as much as he does connect with young people, isn't a champion of them, just because he's not one of them.
Yeah. That's actually what Trump did the best is
Mm.
not only did Trump galvanize the regular ass Republican base and the way he did it too was so easy, is that he just said what everyone else meant. So
Uh-huh.
like, Jeb Bush would get on stage like, we need to protect American jobs. And then Trump became there. Mexicans are rapists. Like that's what Jeb meant. That's what he fucking meant, and it's like, we need to keep America safe, safe from terrorism. I'm gonna kick Muslims out of the country. Like that's what they mean. And so like,
Yep.
of course you're going to go with the guy who's saying what they mean and not just alluding at something. But what Trump did even better is that this is something that is so specific that I don't it can happen, but Trump just had an easier time doing this. Is that Trump was already a well-known celebrity. Everyone in the country
Hmm.
already knew who Donald Trump was, whether you had a good opinion of him or not. And so what Trump did was motivate people who didn't vote at all to vote
Hmm.
in the elections. And so people were like, "Oh, I know Trump. He's the rich guy with the casinos and the hotels, and he's known for his
Republicans
opulence."
did not make politics as much a part of their identity during Bush or even Obama as they did once Trump hit the stage. Like he gave them
Yeah,
a signifier to show to the world that, oh, this is what I believe in. Fuck you
yeah.
guys.
And because and how often do they say it? Like, because Trump was an outsider and
Hmm.
he wasn't a politician. So people who never gave a shit about politics before all of a sudden are huge. One of those people is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said she
Hmm.
never voted in an election until Trump came along. There are a lot of people like that. So, if it'd be difficult. I mean, it's possible, but for someone who's not a celebrity to like, just be a champion of the people and not just the people who consistently vote all the time. Like, of course, you need to motivate those people, but getting engagement for people who are turned off from politics by bringing them in and act like regular human being, I think is a definite, it's a must now
Hmm.
to win in politics these days.
Yeah, and I want to bring this back to Vivek and wrap this up with a take on Vivek that I haven't been able to say because it just hasn't come up. But this might be our last video about him for a while. So, what I wanted to ask you this because to me, as soon as I saw Vivek Ramaswamy, I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has an incredibly high Indian population. It's our number one like immigration demographic is Indian. And in
Okay.
the area I grew up with a lot of Indian friends. And a lot of them were second generation, like their parents immigrated here, but they're American as I am, right? And there is a specific kid that everyone, in my high school, in my area, knew, and it was Vivek Ramaswamy. Like as
Ah.
soon as I saw him, I was like, I know this guy to a T. When it came out that like he was a huge Eminem fan and had like a rap career, I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense because every fucking Indian Model UN kid that I grew up with also loved Eminem and loved doing rap. We would make fucking like rap videos about chemistry. Like that was our thing. Like
Huh.
that's what our fucking community did. And like I was friends with all these guys, right? And I was like, I know everything about Vivek just from like
Interesting.
this cultural upbringing. And it was so clear and obvious to me. But I wonder if someone who didn't grow up with that, if he came as much of a surprise, or if you were like, oh no, these things make sense about a person, or was it more like, oh, this is a wild new type of person I've never met before?
Yeah, I that caught me completely off guard.
Interesting.
The only Indian Americans I know are there's a family that I knew, and they're Indian, but their family didn't like come here from India. Like they lived in Trinidad, and
Hmm.
then and so like it's like a step removed from Indian culture and everything. So, but I did when I heard Vivek Ramaswamy come out and like said, yeah, he was like an amateur rapper in
Hmm.
college, and like I saw like Vivek rhymes with cake. I had no frame of reference for this whatsoever. It was very bizarre, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised to learn that this is this is a common thing. Apparently, I had no idea. So yeah, pretty much everything about Vivek Ramaswamy was weird to me. It's weird that he has this, I don't know if you saw like this list he always put out talking about how uh God is real, there are two genders, fossil fuels are necessary for survival, you know, like his 10
Mhm.
commandments or something like that. And I did think it was bizarre. I have a weird like begrudging respect for him on this, that he still admits that he's Hindu. That
Yeah, I do
surprises me.
respect that. Yeah.
That really does, because it'd be so like if he's like the malignant sociopath that he clearly is, why not just lie and say you're a Christian? Like who's gonna know? But no, like it was important
Well,
enough for him to say, I'm actually a Hindu. It's a strange.
well, TJ, that's the very, this is why like I feel like I understand him very well because I have friends that are very similar to him,
Hmm.
where this type of person, they want to be counterculture. Like they were brought up in a very strict Indian immigrant household. And you know, very, if you have any friends with like Asian parents and this, you know, that stereotype, it's a stereotype based on
The
reality, you
tiger
know,
mom thing or
the
whatever it's
tiger mom
called.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And that definitely happens in Indian families. And they want to have this counterculture against that. They like being antagonistic. They like, you know, doing the rap battles and like doing those things. But like it's always they know where the line is.
Mhm.
They in their core, they want to be part of the Hindu like family that they grew up in, and they don't want to leave that. So it's very important to them culturally still, and they just kind of act out this counterculture against that like is going to piss off that traditionalism, right? But they're never going to leave it. And so that is exactly what I think is happening here with Vivek. And if you guys don't believe me that this is a thing, right? Go watch the new Mean Girls musical. And there's a character in it that I shit you not is Vivek Ramaswamy. It's the mathlete like leader guy, and he does a rap about himself that is overly sexualized and like counterculture-y. But he's still like very much a super big math nerd who wants to please his parents. And like it is exactly, and he does Model UN. Like it's literally exactly, you're like, oh, this is Vivek Ramaswamy in high school. Go watch it and let me know in the comments if I nailed that spot on. Or don't go watch it because, you know, a lot of I don't know. I don't know how that movie's going to do. I hope it does good because it was actually really well. But this is not a ad for the Mean Girls movie. This is a political talk show where we talk about politics all the time. So if you like what we're doing, definitely like and subscribe. We'll be talking about plenty of 2024 election coverage coming up this year.